I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever make this joke on Slack, but I was like, hi, my name is Jen and I'm an insomniac, And I was basically like, I don't want to talk about this. Don't message me. I don't want to talk about insomnia. You can message me, but let's talk about other stuff other than I don't want to talk about this. I didn't really think there was much more I could learn, to be honest. I sort of went in thinking, I know everything. I've been doing this forever. I've studied this, but why not have a community? It will be nice to talk to people about it. And yeah, I was wrong about that. I definitely learned some more stuff, very important stuff. So thank you. I watched 2 of the success stories. One, her name was Kristen, and Coach Allie interviewed her. And, because she had studied meditation, and I mean, our stories aren't exactly the same or anything, but I really connected with what she had to say. And yeah, so I think just watching those 2 videos, I was like, this feels totally right. I have felt like I've learned so much in this program, and I feel so grateful. If I have another big speed bump, maybe I'll come back, and hopefully I won't.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another really special Talking Insomnia episode. We have Jen with us. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
So glad to have you. And for those of you who don't know you, you were part of our Insomnia Immunity Program. And I remember being in a call with you, and I think it was maybe your last call. And I was saying hey, Jen, if you ever want to be a guest, please let me know. And you did email me. So I'm really glad you're here. But with that said, tell us, how did you start having trouble with sleep?
Yeah. So it was a long time ago. It was in 1998, and I took a trip to India, and I had done a lot of traveling in my 20s to Latin America, and then I would come home and work for a while and travel again. And so this was another one of my travels. I was 28, and for a number of reasons, I just started to feel unsafe. And so I started waking up at about 2 or 3 a.m., and that went on for several days, and I was concerned about it. But then all of a sudden I just stopped sleeping, and I was in India, and, I didn't have access to a doctor or anything. And eventually I just met this random woman in a store or something. And I was just asking everybody, do you have any sleeping pills or something for me to sleep? And some random person gave me some pills. I don't even know what they were, but I took them. And I took them for the rest of my trip there. I was there for several weeks more. I was very freaked out. I was freaked out before the insomnia anyway, for other reasons. And then I came home, and I moved back in with my parents, and I ended up dumping out all the pills because I was like, well, I don't know what these are, and I don't want to be addicted to sleeping pills. And I went into therapy. I had seen a therapist prior, but and she diagnosed me with PTSD. But then being home, I felt like, okay, I'm safe now. And I just started sleeping again. And then it was about a year later, I took a trip, decided to go to an ashram in the Bahamas with a friend. And then I wasn't sleeping there, but this time I'm learning meditation. So I'm sleeping next to the ocean, listening to the waves crashing, not sleeping, but just noticing all the sensations and stuff. But then I went home and I was really freaked out. I was like, what is happening? And my roommate at this point, I had a roommate, I was living in Boston, and she said, oh, try this. So she gave me some Klonopin, and I took it, and I slept great. And I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. And then I was like, well, I'm home now, so I'm okay again. And then a year later, went to visit my sister in LA, whose boyfriend at the time was a doctor. And I brought my Klonopin so I could sleep. And, I mentioned it in the morning after I woke up, and he was like, you don't need that stuff. That stuff, would put out an elephant. You shouldn't take it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So then I was ashamed on top of, feeling bad that I needed this. So then I just came home and I said, I'm just not going to travel. I'm just not going to travel. Right. And once when I did get married and we had a kid, we would go to visit my father-in-law, but that was the only trip, and I would bring my Klonopin. So I realize now, of course, that was my first big truce with insomnia, like no more traveling, right? And then it was so 4 years later, it was about 2002, my dad got sick and they told him to get his affairs in order. He ended up living another 11 years, but that's a whole other story. And that's when the insomnia was the first time to hit at home. And at that point, I was living with my then boyfriend, who is now my husband. And yeah, I just stopped sleeping, and I'd be up for days and days. And my husband, my boyfriend, he was into like Buddhist meditation, or he knew a lot about Buddhism and meditation, and I was studying it too. So he's like, oh, just do loving kindness meditation. So I would spend all day just chanting loving kindness meditations. Like even when I'd be working, I'd be chanting it in my head. And I went on a 9-day silent retreat and did all this stuff, and eventually cycled out of that and thought, okay, it's meditation. And I mean, I was learning to lean into fear and stuff like that. But I was delegating, like, oh, okay, I'm okay now. I just need to meditate and then I'll be fine. Right. But yeah, it just kept coming back. Like, so I had a real, in India, like I thought I was going to die basically. And so I had this real fear of death. So that time in 2002, I really leaned into this fear of death, and I felt like I really faced it, but probably kind of delusional. But anyway, I think just really accepting, like, wow, I can be up for days and I can do this, like, and if I die, I die, like, and anyway, I did end up cycling out of it. And I was good for a couple of years again. And then 2004, I got pregnant. And I was so happy. And we were married at the time. And but then I realized, oh my God, I can't take Klonopin if I need it. Like all of a sudden that hit me. And then I was just a mess for my first 2 trimesters. I would, not sleeping. I was anxious. I was stressed. I was reading about how horrible stress was for the fetus. And that was making me more stressed. And it was like, oh my goodness, should I just take something? Would that be less impactful to the fetus? But my last trimester, I seemed to calm down. I think I was just so big and exhausted. And then, I had Jarrett, our son, and the first year, nursing and being up, and I mean, he didn't sleep for a couple of years. It was semi-torture being an insomniac, and then, but at the same time, it was kind of forced exposure, like always. And I heard that in somebody else's drop-in call. Actually, a new mom talked about that, like. It does make you just lean into it more. So I know I didn't have insomnia that whole time, the first few years of his life. I know I would cycle out, and I enjoyed motherhood of a young infant and toddler and all those years. And then when he was around 5, he got really sick, and it turned out he just had a series of viruses that lasted a couple weeks, but we started running tests, and the doctors were wondering what's going on, and we were wondering what's going on, and of course, I was panicked, but he got better, and then I was like, not okay, facing the prospect of losing him. So I, of course, had another bout or relapse. Now I call them speed bumps, what I learned, but I was calling them relapses, and this, and I was like, why does this keep happening? And so I signed up for MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, at the place where John Kabat-Zinn founded MBSR. And that course was great. And, again, leaning into fear, meditation, yoga. But I think the most powerful part of that course was this was in person. So it was like 2010, was being like with 30 other people that all had different ailments and life conditions. Some were dying, some were taking care of dying people, some, had severe chronic pain, like all sorts of things. And it put my stuff in perspective, right? I actually think that was the most powerful thing. Like, oh, if they all can live with this, like, maybe I can live with this too, you know? And I remember when I started talking to the instructor, and turns out she was like, I didn't even know, like a Buddhist monk or something, but I was, and I said, you know, I might end up in a psych ward because of this. Like, you know, and she was like, maybe not, you know, I don't know. She was so calm about it, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, she's so calm about it. Why is she so calm about it? Why am I freaking out about this, you know? So, and, you know, I mean, I've had these kind of like spiritual experiences and over the years too, that sometimes I feel like kind of cycle me out of a bout. And that time it was the MBSR course. And then, like maybe it was toward the end. I know this sounds crazy and probably people will think I'm delusional, but like a voice came over me and just said, you know, he is not your own, of course, referring to my son. And just this peace came over me. And then I was better for another several years, right? It was like, oh, okay. I mean, you know, I was working hard with all of this too, but so, I mean, when, you know, 2012, my father actually was dying, and I remember sitting on his bed in the hospital, and I hadn't slept the night before, and he was dying, and he looked at me and he said, you know, are you going to make it? And I was like, oh my God, am I going to make it? You know, like the irony, right? So I'll try to move ahead. So, you know, 2012 to 2018, kind of a blur, but 2018, I had a very big speed bump. And this time I was like, I don't, like, why does this keep happening? And, you know, I felt very unsafe, very ungrounded. At this point, my doctor, oh, by the way, my doctor only would prescribe like 5 to 10 Klonopin per year, you know, for a trip to visit my father-in-law, because she was worried about addiction, and, you know, and I was too, honestly. So I was like, okay. But 2018, after having gone through, and at this point I was I am a teacher still. I was a teacher, and my life was very, very, very busy with a routine, and that helped me. And then summer came, and everything just slowed down, and I was like, had all this time and starting to relax. And then of course I'm sleeping in, and then that set off that bout. But anyway, I was like, wow, I can't even have a nice relaxing summer, you know? And I did get depressed over this, and went to different therapists who said, oh, you're clinically depressed, or, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not because of my childhood or my PTSD. It's like, I can't sleep. That's the only reason. No, let's look at the deeper reasons. No, let's not. Like, I just can't sleep like that, you know? And another therapist said, oh, you need to go on antidepressants, or you will never heal. I'm like, great, thanks. And I just said, okay, thanks, bye-bye. So anyway, I did look into finding a psychiatrist, because I was like, I just, you know, but nobody would get back to me. They were either booked up, or they, nobody was getting back to me. And so I thought, this is a sign, like, there must be a reason nobody's getting back to me, that I can't find a psychiatrist, you know? So I took it as a sign. I was still very panicked and Googling again, insomnia and stuff. And at this point, I found Sasha Stevens and her books and her online program, and did it all. And it was profound, especially just reading her story in her first book. And I was like, oh my, because I'd read a lot of books on insomnia. I had done some CBT-I, I'd done, read Say Goodnight to Insomnia. I'd even gone to like a sleep clinic for an appointment, but I didn't like it. Felt very clinical. And I think it was CBT-I. So anyway, that was years prior, but now I found her book and I was like, this person gets it, right? And, did her 12 promises, and then read her second. Well, actually, I think I don't know when her second book came out, but I got her second book, which I actually liked more than her first book. And did her online program. And although, I think I've talked about, there are some like fallacies, some things that I don't necessarily agree with in her books and her program, because I think she does adopt some things from CBT-I. There's a lot of great wisdom. And I mean, she was a lifesaver for me. So I feel so grateful to Sasha. But I went into the yo-yo phase, right? Didn't know it was called yo-yo phase, but I literally for 8 months slept every other night. 8 months of like every other night. And I was running an hour a day, because I had so much adrenaline, and drinking 2 beers a night. Like I had I'd have to wake up for work. And then eventually I just got to the point, and I'd done all the programs, and felt like I'd calmed down, but I was still only sleeping every other night. And finally, I said to my husband, like, F it. Like, if this is my life, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to enjoy it. Like, I'm going to forget about this. Like, I don't know what to do. And of course, that's the night I started sleeping, right? Every night. And that lasted, for another 5 years. And 2020, I think I saw you interviewing Sasha, and I wasn't going through it at that time, but I just I was like, oh, he's a doctor and he seems cool. Like, you seemed like very open and not like, I know everything about this. It was like, oh, wow. Okay. And just sort of filed it away. And then 2023, my son graduated from high school, and he had saved his money working, and he was like, I'm going to travel the world by myself. And he'd never even traveled, left the country, all that. And I was like, oh, so of course I lost it. And then, I've signed, I've done MBSR. I've even taught MBSR. I've taken the course so many times, and I took the teacher training. I remember this one group I taught. I was always I was stressed. I don't love public speaking anyway, but I was stressed more because I was like, what if it comes back? Like, what if my insomnia comes back, like, while I'm teaching this course, right? And I saw the irony in that, how stressful it was for me to teach MBSR, but anyway, signed up again in 2023 and went back into therapy, and then had another sort of healing dream, I call it, and cycled out again. And then, wait, what? Oh yeah. Then end of 2023, I was like, I'm done with the Truces. I was done letting it control my life. So my husband and we bought some land in an eco village in Costa Rica, actually. And I was like, I got to just live my life. This might be with me for the rest of my life, but I just got to live it. Right. So we did that, traveled down there, had some issues with sleeping, but
and just sorry to interrupt, Jen, but very quick question. Now we're in 2023. Yeah. And if I understand the story correctly, you haven't actually traveled outside the country for many years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was one, when my father-in-law turned 80, he brought us on a cruise many years ago, but it was like to the Bahama port and back, and I had my drugs, and it just was like but this was like, oh, we're gonna live here someday, like we're gonna move here, like it was big, right? And so now, like I was definitely nervous before the trip, and definitely didn't sleep great. I can't remember actually that much, but got back into my teaching routine. The routine has always really helped me. And then whatever. So then fast forward to the beginning of 2025, my husband needed to go back to Costa Rica to get some dentist work because it's cheaper down there, and he needed a lot of work. So him and my son, who's now about to turn 21, but they left. I had to keep teaching. It didn't work out with my schedule, and having them leave, and I speak Spanish, they don't speak Spanish. And I was like, these are the two most important people to me in my life. They're leaving the country and they don't speak Spanish. They're like, what's going to happen, right? So it set off, the latest one in 2025 it was kind of rocky until April. And then April, I had an all-nighter, and it had been a while since I'd had that. And, basically I just sat on my couch all night, and then stood up and went to work, drove to work, and I was like, and at this point, I'm reading Sasha's books again, and I had read them multiple times, but now I'm reading them backwards, like literally. I'm like studying them, and I'm like, some of this doesn't make sense to me right now. Like, this isn't working, or blah, blah. So then in April, I started Googling, and I found you, and I recognized you. I was like, that's the guy who interviewed her. oh, wow, he has a whole YouTube channel. And I think I had seen it before, but I was like, nope, nope, no, I don't have insomnia. I was always sort of like, I didn't even like saying the word insomnia. I would say the word and it would make me physically shudder. So and then I started looking into all your programs and I'm like, well, I mean, I got nothing to lose here. Why not? So that's when I signed up and started the immunity. So I did some of your free courses and stuff, and then started the immunity program at the beginning of May. So I was in it for 3 months. And yeah, I didn't really think there was much more I could learn, to be honest. I sort of went in thinking, I know everything. I've been doing this forever. I've studied this, but why not have a community? It will be nice to like talk to people about it. And yeah, I was wrong about that. I definitely learned some more stuff, like very important stuff. So thank you.
Oh, anytime. And I'm excited about going into this part to hear about what you learned and how that changed things for you. But one question I had before that was, it sounds like you didn't spend that much time like perusing the YouTube channel before joining the immunity program. It sounds like you pretty shortly after learning there was a program, you joined it.
I watched 2 of the success stories. One, her name was Kristen, and Coach Allie interviewed her. And, because she had studied meditation, and I mean, our stories aren't exactly the same or anything, but like I really connected with what she had to say. And yeah. So I think just watching those 2 videos, I was like, this feels totally right. Like I've had so many red flag experiences over the years with this. I mean, I've gone into therapist's office and sat there for 5 minutes and be like, I'm all set. Bye-bye. Like just walked out. Like I've walked out of so many situations, for good reason,
Yeah.
But
maybe tell us about that. It's kind of like something that we haven't talked about before, but I think it's valuable to kind of explore. And maybe curious now, what were some of those red flags that made you go like, no, this is not for me?
So, well, the one woman who I went, she had some alternative therapy, even though she was like licensed social worker, whatever. When she said, you're never going to get better unless you go on antidepressants, I was like, what a horrible thing to say. And I was so vulnerable, and I was like, she might be right. Maybe I do need to do, and, but I just felt like that is so arrogant, Another time when the guy, male therapist, he like diagnosed me like within 5 minutes with clinical depression. And he had this big recliner, and he leaned back like he was going to listen to me. It was out of like a Woody Allen movie or something, and I'm looking at him and he's telling me I'm clinically depressed, and he's leaning back like, I was like, I'm done here. I'm sorry. I'm done here. And I walked out. And then the sleep clinic, I just felt like it was so clinical. It was so sterile. It was so like, answer these questions. And I just could feel my anxiety rising, like as these questions are being asked, and like, you're going to have to come do this and do that. And So I think I, stayed for that like interview, but then I'm like, I'm done here. I did have one therapist just, he was a doctor too. And he was like, I don't know what to tell you. And he wrote me a prescription for like 50 Klonopin, and I didn't fill it. I was like, this isn't the answer. Like, for me to become not that you need to be a drug addict to take it, but I had that fear, right? I had that fear. So, and I still have it. I mean, I don't take it, but I still have it as like, and I know it's not what makes you sleep. I've learned that, right? But even just if I do have another speed bump, which I haven't really had, I probably wouldn't take it, but I like to have that option there, right? So there's absolutely I don't have any judgment against, but for me, I had a lot of fear of addiction. What other situations? Yeah, just I did hypnotherapy, and I couldn't get into hypnosis. I just couldn't be hypnotized. I think it was belief, right? I was like, I'm not going to be hypnotized. So I was not hypnotized. And I think I was also like, this isn't going to work, right? And so Reiki, I've done all sorts of things, but
no, but thanks for sharing that. You can tell that either you didn't connect with somebody, you didn't believe in them. It was clear that they didn't really understand you for various reasons. You felt like this was not the way. But then you really resonated with these two success stories, and you joined the immunity program. And yeah, take us from there. What team were you on, by the way?
I was on the yellow team with Coach Allie and Coach Richard.
Oh yeah.
When I signed up, I think it was Coach Richard said, introduce yourself. And so I went on Slack and I introduced myself, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever make this joke on Slack, but I was like, hi, my name is Jen and I'm an insomniac, and then, and I was basically like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, don't message me. I don't want to talk about insomnia. You can message me, but let's talk about other stuff other than I don't want to talk about this. Like, privately, I didn't even want to publicly on the Slack channel. And when I first signed up, I couldn't join the drop-ins because of my job, but I ended up taking some personal time or a day here or a morning here so I could attend some drop-in calls. And then once summer hit, I was able to join them. But yeah, so I that was my attitude. Like, I'll make connections here, but I don't want to discuss insomnia. And I think partly I had a bias about like those forums that Sasha would talk about, like, don't join it. And so I thought, is this one of those forums where we're all going to just bitch about how horrible our lives are and stuff? So I think I was like cautious because of that too. And I didn't want to be triggered. So, but, as I started joining the calls and as I started watching I loved watching the recordings, even more than the success stories. Actually, the success stories would trigger me a little bit in that. I know that word triggers, but in that I was like, well, I might not be one of those people that, recover. And so it would make me almost more anxious. So, but I loved watching the drop-in recordings because I could do that when I wasn't at work. And just watching like the processes that people would go through and the different styles the different coaches had, and just seeing, wow, we're all asking the same questions, saying the same things over and over again. Like all of you coaches, you are saints because it's like this. I'm like, wow, we are all completely redundant, and so, but I just appreciate how they would answer the questions as if they'd never heard it before, and so I just, started to calm down. And what was kind of funny is I kept hearing, you need to have speed bumps to recover, and I was like, I'm not having a speed bump. Like, what's wrong? Like, I need to have a speed. But then I'm like, most of my life has been a speed bump. So like, I think I'm good, like, I've been through plenty of speed bumps, and and I may go through them again, and that's okay. But I always say I am open to no more speed bumps. And that's one thing, the whole speed bump, like, I've thought about it because like I run a theater camp, and over the summer when I was running the theater camp, I would wake up sometimes at 2 a.m., but because I had work to do, to put on a play. It had nothing to do with insomnia. It was like, oh my God, I have so much to do. And, so I didn't consider that a speed bump. I was exhausted, but then at the end of the immunity, before I went to Costa Rica in August, I felt like I had a speed bump, but I was actually sleeping. But I felt that like fear of not sleeping, but I was sleeping, so it's been a while since I've been sleeping well. So it's interesting.
I want to ask you a question, Jen, which was, did your understanding of what insomnia is change as you joined the program? Because hearing your story, I feel like there's maybe a missing piece there where you didn't fully understand what insomnia was and why you kept cycling in and out.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I saw that the map or whatever you call it, like I realized like I'm not at the beginning. I'm definitely not in Oz right now. Like I am along this timeline. I'm somewhere along the trajectory. But it made sense why it kept coming back. And one of the biggest things, I loved the language of making truces. Like I had made truces, right, with insomnia. And it's hard not to when things go back, you get back into a flow and a routine and you're sleeping. You want to hold on to that, right? So it makes sense. It's actually takes an effort for me not to even now, like to not fall back into those truces because I'm sleeping well, right? So, but I learned, all these like going to bed early, not staying out late, not traveling, not having caffeine after a certain time, making sure things are, perfect so that I don't rock the boat, so I don't bring on another speed bump. And so I really realized these truces were actually what was keeping it alive, keeping the insomnia alive. And I mean, my life has so much routine in it, like with my teaching job, and I have to wake up every morning at 5. I mean, I wake up at 5 to meditate every morning, and then I have to drive to work, so it's like, I also want to go to bed early because I have to get up so early and, be with kids all day. But we are going to be taking trips to Costa Rica, right? So I will have to break any kind of routine that I already have. So, I mean, it makes sense. And I knew, the fear, I think it was just this whole embracing wakefulness. I'm not sure how much like Sasha went into how to embrace the wakefulness. And that was so much of what this program was about. Like, not like this is what you need to do, but this is the attitude you have to have while you're embracing wakefulness, whatever it is that you choose to do, right? And it's in that like total openness to, I might not sleep tonight is what brings the sleep, right? And so, and it's that paradox, right? And it's, I mean, even when at the end in 2018, at the end of those 8 months, the yo-yo phase, like I naturally kind of got there, like, oh, screw it. I'm just going to live my life, right? And that's like, it wasn't like part of the curriculum. Like, well, no, actually, she did talk about, you got to live your life. She did talk about that. But I think, I didn't know how do you do that at night, when you're panicked, and it was really spelled out by so many different people, so many participants, so many coaches. Like, it's not really what you do. It's your attitude toward what you do at night, But
absolutely. And I want to, sorry to interrupt again, Jen, but one thing I just wanted to sneak in here was, for those in the audience who are like, Jen kept mentioning the word truce, and that was really helpful for what that was. Maybe some don't know what it is. So I'll just give my kind of 1 minute explanation, and then and let you add to that. But basically, the way we see it is that insomnia is sort of like it's a battle where we've identified not sleeping as like the enemy, and this battle is what actually keeps us awake. But sometimes we can kind of like we can do something that we think will appease like the enemy, which is like not sleeping. So it can be like, oh, if I don't go out at night, that will probably be okay. And that becomes like a truce where we cede something, we kind of give up something, and then we think that the opponent will not like attack us because we have this truce now. But it's actually, what actually helps is simply that we've done something that we think will help. So we kind of like, I've done this, so now I don't have to do anything else. And now I don't have to do anything else. That becomes like less effort. And that's what actually helps. But the tricky part is that we have kind of given up something, and we're kind of feeding the idea that if we don't kind of give up things or do things, then things will become tricky for us. So the idea that there is an enemy and a battle to fight is still remaining there, which keeps things like kind of tricky. That's the truce idea. But is that how you understood it as well, or anything you want to add to that?
that the war was still going on. There was still a war, but I had made a truce. Like, oh, okay. So if I go to bed early, you'll let me sleep. Okay. So if I don't stay out late, you'll let me sleep. Yeah. So definitely.
That's great. I just wanted to clarify that for the audience, the truce idea. And now you talked about how like the idea of like befriending wakefulness was really helpful. And again, not the prescription, like not like do this, but rather like the approach, the attitude. And it sounds like hearing everybody's like version of that was really helpful to you.
Totally. Right. And then I could just lie in bed. And I used to do that anyway, even though, even a CBT-I, and even I think it's in Sasha's first book, maybe it's like, if you're relaxed, she would say you can stay in bed. But if you're not relaxed, which was helpful, get out of bed. So that was but there were times, and I can't remember where I learned this, but that I was lying on the hardwood floor in the winter time. Like, I can't be in bed, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the difference is that when we in like the CBT-I world, we hear like a rule, like, oh, if you have spent 15 minutes in bed and not sleeping, you have to leave the bed and only go back to bed when you're really sleepy. It's like this kind of like this forced way of trying to say, like, if you just follow these rules, you will sleep, which is different from saying, like, if you find yourself really frustrated and annoyed in bed, then you may want to just leave the bed and leave. It's kind of like this gentle, intuitive approach. That helps more, right?
Yeah. This is what I loved about this. There were no rules. There are no rules, and you can make your own rules, right? Or not even rules, but like, you follow what feels right. And I remember Coach Ali giving this great explanation about how she would approach it. Like, if she was really hyper aroused, she would fold the laundry or whatever. But if she was like not too hyper aroused, but calm, but not like sleepy, she'd read a book. And not that it was prescriptive or anything, but she was like, this is what I would do. And I'm like, oh yeah. Because like, I'm not like, I don't want to watch TV at night. Like, I have no interest in that. Like, I mean, I had reading books. Yeah. Lying in bed, listening to some tapes and stuff. Although, yes, sometimes I would feel like, okay, this is an effort. And you start to recognize like your hidden efforts, like, oh no, this isn't an effort. But I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally an effort, But I loved that, the lack of rules. Like, yeah, we can stay in bed, we can get out of bed, we can do whatever we want. Right. Yeah. So that was really helpful. Yeah.
I wanted to just add something here and again, hear your comments on it. But a very common question I get is like, why is it that some people seem to have like, people say like, hey, Daniel, some people seem to say like, oh, as soon as I found your teachings and your YouTube channel and other coaches, then things get easier for me pretty quickly. And other people have like a much more kind of bumpy and two steps back, one step back type of journey. Why is that? And I often say that we can't really predict how we will react to things, but I've seen several times that somebody who's been in the space of kind of like the inner journey, maybe somebody studied Buddhism or like mindfulness-based stress reduction, or already has done a lot of this inner work, if you will, and then finds our way, for that person, it can kind of click. And that person can fairly easily start to see things getting easier. And it sounded like your journey was a little bit like that, but
yeah, it was immediate. It was almost immediate. It was like, I watched those 2 videos. I signed up for the program. I had a few sessions with Coach Ali, and then I was like, oh. And then I started sleeping, and then I'm joining the drop-in calls, and then they're telling me you need to have speed bumps, and I'm like, I don't know. How do I just bring on a speed bump? Right. So yes, it's true. And again, I don't want to, like, what do you call it? Close the hood. Cause whenever I've closed the hood and said, okay, I'm done with this, I'm fully recovered, like, it tends to just creep back. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I joined and things started getting better, and they've been, I mean, the only speed bump I had was when I was leaving the immunity program. And again, I was still sleeping. I was sleeping great, but it just felt like, oh no, the fear is still there. It's still there, you know, and it might still be here. I don't know. And the more I can like lean into accepting that, like, because yes, I have learned so much. So, and I know, you know, there's been a whole conversation about the difference between resignation and acceptance. But honestly, at the end of my yo-yo phase in 2018, like I did feel resigned. I felt, but it was a positive kind of like, hey, I'm going to make the most of my life. I'm resigned to this. I sleep every other night. That is who I am, you know? But of course, yeah. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't, even if I have another speed bump, like it doesn't feel like resignation. I don't know. Anyway.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you finally here, if you could maybe travel back in time, let's say all the way to 2018, you know, when you had your first...
when it started? You mean,
yeah, when it started. If you could tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself?
1998.
1998. What did I say? I meant 1998.
Well, 2018 was a very big, I've had several very big speed bumps. So, but 1998, what would I tell myself? I mean, it's so much of who I am. Like it's put me on the spiritual path. It's put me on, you know, it's made me really delve into so many teachings that have helped me get to know myself. So I wouldn't want to say like, I don't, you know, I would change the course of history or anything. But, you know, maybe just, you're going to be okay, ride the wave. Life is going to be amazing and horrible and wonderful and heartbreaking and everything in between, right? And that try not to take it so seriously, you know. And I mean, that's one thing I'll say, both my husband and son. I mean, they're such gifts, but my husband really does help me to take my life less seriously. Even in our deepest, darkest moments, we find a way to crack each other up. Like, and so, I don't know. I don't think I would change anything, but I would want her to know that, you know, I'm going to get through it, or, that I'll be okay. But I did take some notes. I want to make sure I didn't forget to share anything that I wanted to share, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, please do it, Jen.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but I think I have made this clear, like my life has not sucked, even though, you know, like I've had this since how many, 27 years, 28 years, whatever. And it's been in and out. Like, I think for some people that can be very triggering, who are in the journey and they're like, oh my God, 25. I mean, it hasn't been 26, 27 years straight, but I've learned so much. And I've had, like I said, like amazing, incredible moments. And I've had, yes, horrific times where I was up for many, many, many nights. And so I know how difficult it is. But overall, like, yeah, my life has been good. So I wanted to make that clear, because sometimes I would feel like some people would look at me like, oh my God, how is she still here? You know? So let me see.
As you're looking for the next one, I'll just comment very briefly on that. But sometimes I get this question from somebody who says like, hey, Daniel, I heard that for some people, their recovery journey is like a year long, and then they're like terrified by that prospect. And then what I always say is like, yes, but when somebody says that it like took them about a year to like really leave the struggle, it doesn't mean it was a year of like tormentation, and it means it was a year of growth where like sometimes it was difficult, but sometimes there was a lot of learning and ease and relief. So it's kind of like a journey where a lot of it is actually like really wonderful. So just a little comment to anyone out there.
Right. It's very true. I mean, even in the hardest days, there were moments of real joy. Like when I would learn something or feel like, oh, wow, you know, I'm strong or resilient, like I would feel joyful and stuff. But I think one thing I did want to say is like, you know, people that haven't been through this, or people that don't know family members or close friends or you that really understand like how much we struggle, like how difficult this is. So many people don't understand, like either they say things that they say the wrong things completely, or when you tell them, like I actually wouldn't talk about, I talked about it with my husband and some close friends, but like nobody at work knew. When I joined the immunity program, I did end up telling one person because I was like, well, I'm going to be taking some personal days here and there. And it like took a lot of courage for me to tell them, I love this person. They're lovely. But when, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to tell you. And I think she was kind of nervous, like, what are you going to say? And I'm like, I'm in a, insomnia recovery program. She's like, oh. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, and then we just immediately started talking about something else. And I was like, wow, people are either like, wow, that sounds like hell and you need to do this, that, or the other thing. Or they're like, what's the big deal? Right. But like a lot of us go to the ER for this. Like when you don't sleep for days, you think you're dying. There were many times I was like, this is going to get me. This is going to get me. Or I never considered taking my own life, but I was like, God, dying would be a relief. Like there were points in my life I did feel that way. People do end up in psych wards. So it's like, there is a serious struggle here going on for so many people. And I just want others maybe that don't have experience or haven't lived with somebody with this, like childbirth. I didn't have medication. I had prodromal labor for 4 days. I had active labor for 18 hours. He wouldn't come out. I didn't have medicine. I was feeling everything. They had to use the plunger vacuum thing, and I was like, that was nothing compared with my insomnia journey, and I could name and I know there are worse things in life, believe me, like the prospect when I thought I was going to lose my son, that was worse. But actually, I don't even know, and then I remember one participant in the program saying, he had open heart surgery. He said the insomnia was worse than the open heart surgery and everything he went through with that. So it's like it is something, it's no joke. It's not like oh, what's the big deal, right? Like, but at the same time, it is what's the big deal. Like just live your life, right? Because that's the bottom line of getting out of it, is just focus on your passions and what you love in life. And I know when you're going through it, it's really hard to do that. And again, I think there are benefits to like loving kindness meditations. And so you're not like in that catastrophic fear loop, right? There are things that can help you at least just get out of catastrophizing things and out of the hyperarousal. But the bottom line is like, yeah, just kind of forget about it and go live your life.
Yeah. Very well. Did you have anything else that you wrote down, Jen? Or
yeah. No, just no, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. I have felt like I've learned so much in this program, and I feel so grateful. And if I have another big speed bump, maybe I'll come back, and hopefully I won't. But I do want to say like the progress that I've made. So the night before our last trip to Costa Rica, I remember like lying there, like we had to get up at 3 a.m. and thinking, I might not sleep tonight. I was like, and that's okay. I remember like, I was like, that's okay. Like I might just not sleep tonight and I'll just get up and we'll go and we'll travel down there and that's okay. And I remember thinking that's different. And then I fell asleep. So I slept like 5 hours and then it's like, wow. And then the first night of the trip, they had like a cacao ceremony, which has caffeine. And I was like, we're doing this, And even last week, something stressful was going on at work the following day. And I was like, yeah, I might not sleep tonight. And then I was like, but it's okay. Like, I'm still going to get through the day tomorrow if I don't. So those are big shifts for me. My attitude toward a potential all-nighter, I've noticed like that's huge, actually. Like, it doesn't make me, oh my God, am I not? It was like, oh, it just doesn't scare me or freak me out. Again, I wouldn't be thrilled, I'm sure, but that's been huge. So, I did want to say that. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I just will comment very briefly that's really, really big, of course, because that's the whole driver of insomnia is when the idea of like, what if I don't sleep well tonight or don't sleep tonight makes us like so scared that we, really react to that, and we try to prevent that. And then we end up not sleeping because we tried so hard to prevent that idea, etc. That's insomnia. And then when the idea comes up, what if I don't sleep tonight? And we go like, well, that's okay. That may or may not happen. Then there's not going to be any struggle. There's not going to be any fight. So it's a huge shift. And for anyone listening, they're going to be like, how do I get that shift? I want to be like that too. Well, just you being here listening is wonderful, but of course it takes a while of learning and kind of like a little bit introspection to arrive there. But it's a wonderful thing.
Right. And I think that's a good point. Like, you can't force the shift. You can't force acceptance. It's kind of like grace. It just kind of happens. I mean, you can do everything that we're supposed to, or not do whatever in the program. I mean, I still think there's a lot of value in meditation and exercising and doing all these things just to better your life. Because if your life is better, you're going to want to live it, So I think there is connection with all that with insomnia, but it's more do all these things to better your life, to just, but yeah, the acceptance, it just comes, and you just can't force it. Yeah.
Wow. One little just random thing that I just want to mention very briefly was that you mentioned that 1998 you went on this trip to India. And so did I, actually. That was the year I finished high school, and me and a couple of friends, we had saved some money. So we went on a trip to India. So we're there maybe at the same time.
Probably. When
I was there in the summer month, like June, July of.
Oh, okay. I was there in the winter months, but that's crazy.
Same year. That's
yeah. Amazing.
Okay, finally, you've already touched on this, but it's a valuable question that I tend to always end these stories with, and it's the question of like, did you learn things from let's say the immunity program, or from our teachings, or from insomnia in general, that were helpful in other aspects of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it puts everything in perspective. Like, at a previous job, I had a colleague, and she came up to me and I've had other people come out and be like, I want to smoke whatever you're smoking. I just want, and I'm like, if you only knew like the struggles I have, But I think it's not like my persona, I was lying. It was like, because all these little things that people were always stressing about in the school systems and this and that, and I'm like, who cares? I mean, yeah, we can address it, but like, these are little problems, right? I think, when you go through any sort of hellish experience, and it doesn't have to be insomnia, it can be anything, it puts everything else in perspective, right? So that you don't stress about the small stuff. I think that's a huge one. I think also you just don't know, like, the struggles or the silent battles people may be fighting. So just trying to be less judgmental. I still am working on, of course, judging myself. I still have, I am not an enlightened being. Like I still have my issues and my judgments, toward other people, toward myself and stuff. But yeah, I think because I've learned so much in the meditation practice and the Buddhism and even like Jesus, and I bring it all in, and I don't think I would have learned all of that stuff that I could apply to the rest of my life if I hadn't struggled. I mean, most people don't, meditate I guess some people might do it for the hell of it, but like, I think you have to be suffering in some way to be driven to those teachings and those practices and stuff. So, but yeah, and then you can take them and apply them to the rest of your life.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful answers, Jen. Thanks so much for sharing this. I want to say thanks so much also for being a guest. It means the world. So
yeah. Thank you for having me.
Anytime,
Yes.
Jen. Be in touch, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Hi, it's me, Coach Daniel, and I hope that you found a ton of value in the video that you just saw. Now, if somebody would ask me, hey, Daniel, what do you think would really help somebody who has tuned in to a lot of the videos, who understands a lot, but who's just not seeing things change for them? I would say contextualization, discourse, to talk to somebody who understands what you've been going through, that you can ask questions to, get a reply, ask a follow-up question, get another reply, etc. That conversation so often starts to clarify things and really kickstarts your journey towards peaceful sleep. And one way you can have such a conversation is by booking a call with one of our coaches. In fact, you can head over to our website, thesleepcourseschool.com, and you can see which coaches offer calls and check out their individual success story to see if their story relates with you, and you find that connection that leads you to see that this is a person that I could work with. This is a person I would talk to. And then you can book a call, and that could be what really kickstarts your journey to where you want to be.